Parents, listen closely. The dreams you weave for your children's future can sometimes lead them into a web you never saw coming. This is not just a story. It is a warning, a lesson wrapped in the fabric of a modern folktale. Before you pack those bags and send your daughter off to a place of prestige and discipline, watch this. Know that the most dangerous lessons are often taught outside the classroom, in the whispers between friends and the shadows of dormitory halls. Her excitement will be real, her ambition pure, but the world she steps into is more complex than any of you can imagine. Let this tale be your guide and your caution. The city of Lagos hummed with its usual relentless energy, a symphony of car horns, bustling markets, and distant music. But in the quiet, well-kept living room of the Nwasu family home, a different kind of energy was building, one of anticipation, hope, and a barely perceptible thread of anxiety. Adanna Nwasu knelt on the polished floor, her hands carefully folding another blouse and placing it into the large, open suitcase that lay before her like a promise. Each piece of clothing, the crisp white shirts, the pleated navy blue skirts, the sensible shoes, was a tangible piece of a dream she had nurtured for years. Attending the prestigious Queen's College, Lagos, was more than just going to a good school. It was a rite of passage, a stepping stone to the future she fiercely desired. She saw herself there, walking confidently under the flamboyant trees, her mind sharpened by brilliant teachers, her character forged in an environment of excellence. She would become a lawyer, a voice for the voiceless, and make her family proud. The thought sent a familiar thrill through her, making her fingers tremble slightly as she smoothed down a fold. "Are you sure you have everything, NWA?" Her mother, Ngozi, appeared in the doorway, her expression a tender mix of pride and sorrow. She held a new packet of socks, a small, practical addition to the growing pile. "The nights can get cool, and you must always keep your feet warm." "Yes, Mama," Adanna said, smiling up at her. "I have everything, and more. You've packed enough food to feed my entire dormitory for a week." Ngozi chuckled, but her eyes were misty. She came over and sat on the edge of the bed, watching her daughter. "This is a big step, Adanna, a very big step. Your father and I, we are so proud of you. You know that, don't you?" "I know," Adanna said, her heart swelling with love, "and I won't let you down." Later, as the family shared a final dinner before the journey, the air was thick with unspoken words. Adanna's father, Chakwudi, was a man of few words, but his silence tonight was heavier than usual. He listened to Adanna's excited chatter about the school's legendary debate team and its renowned alumni, nodding slowly. "Chakwudi, you are quiet," Ngozi noted, serving him another helping of jollof rice. He looked at his daughter, his gaze deep and thoughtful. "Queen's College is a place of great opportunity," he began, his voice a low rumble. "But it is also a world of its own, a microcosm. You will meet all kinds of people there, Adanna, girls from different backgrounds with different values." He paused, choosing his words with care. "The prestige of a school is not just in its name, but in the character it builds. Remember who you are. Remember the foundation we have laid for you here. No friendship, no sense of belonging is worth compromising that." Adanna nodded earnestly. "I will, Papa, I promise." But in her heart, buzzing with the excitement of the new and the unknown, his warning felt like a distant, theoretical thing. How could anything compromise the dream she had held so close for so long? The morning sun was just beginning to paint the sky in hues of orange and gold as their car pulled away from the home Adanna had known all her life. She pressed her face against the cool glass of the window, watching her neighborhood, her world, shrink and then disappear. Her excitement intensified with every kilometer, a live wire humming under her skin. The dense cityscape gradually gave way to open fields and clusters of trees, the landscape transforming just as she imagined her life was about to. "This is it," she thought to herself, her heart pounding a rhythm of pure anticipation against her ribs. "The beginning of everything amazing." She clutched the handle of her suitcase tightly, as if it were her anchor in a sea of thrilling possibilities. When the car finally turned a corner and the grand, wrought-iron gates of Queen's College came into view, Adanna's breath caught in her throat. It was even more impressive than the brochures. The gates, emblazoned with the school's crest, swung open ceremoniously. Beyond them, the campus unfolded like a meticulously kept secret garden. Sprawling emerald lawns, historic red brick buildings draped in ivy, and tall, majestic trees that cast long, cool shadows. Students in crisp uniforms walked along the paths, their laughter and chatter filling the air with a sense of purpose and belonging. "It's perfect," Adanna whispered, her eyes wide. Her mother squeezed her hand. "Remember, Adanna, remember why you are here." The memory of her mother's voice, "Focus on your studies, avoid bad company, and make us proud," was a clear, sharp bell in her mind as they hugged their final, tearful goodbye at the administration block. Adanna nodded, her confidence feeling unshakable. "I will, Mama, I promise." Now alone, clutching her suitcase, she made her way to the dormitory, a large three-story building named Faith Hall. The moment she pushed the heavy wooden door open, a wave of sound and movement hit her. The air was thick with the scent of disinfectant, perfume, and the nervous energy of 100 girls. Suitcases lay open in the corridors. Mothers gave last-minute advice, and girls shrieked with laughter as they reunited with friends. For a moment, Adanna felt overwhelmingly small and lost. "Hey, you look as lost as I feel," a cheerful voice called out. Adanna turned to see a girl with a friendly face and bright, intelligent eyes struggling with an overstuffed box. "I'm Ebeli," the girl said, shifting the box to offer a hand. "I think we're roommates. I saw the name Nwasu on the door next to mine." A wave of relief so powerful it nearly buckled Adanna's knees washed over her. "Adanna," she managed to say, shaking Ebeli's hand. "Yes, that's me." "Welcome to dormitory life," Ebeli said with a warm, knowing grin, gesturing at the chaos around them. "It's not as scary as it looks, I promise. Come on, I'll help you find our room and unpack." As they navigated the bustling hallway together, Adanna felt the tight knot of anxiety in her chest begin to loosen. Maybe everything would be perfect after all. Ebeli was easy to talk to, funny, and seemed just as focused on academics as Adanna was. They discovered their room was small but tidy, with 2 beds, 2 desks, and a window that looked out onto a courtyard. "This is nice," Adanna said, starting to unpack her clothes into the empty wardrobe. "It is," Ebeli agreed. "We just have to keep our heads down, study hard, and avoid." She trailed off, her eyes flickering towards the door. "Avoid what?" Adanna asked. But Ebeli just shook her head, her smile slightly strained. "Nothing, just the usual drama you'll see." It was a cryptic comment, but in the warmth of their new friendship, Adanna didn't press it. She was too busy imagining late-night study sessions with Ebeli, cheering for her at debate tournaments, and becoming the best of friends. The first few days were a whirlwind of orientation lectures, placement tests, and learning the labyrinthine layout of the school. Adanna threw herself into it all, her initial excitement solidifying into a determined resolve. She was here to excel. But by the end of the first week, the social landscape of the school began to come into sharp and unsettling focus. It was during lunch in the vast, noisy dining hall that the hierarchy became clear. The seniors, especially the final-year students, carried an air of unshakable authority, and at the very apex of this social pyramid was a girl named Amaka. Everyone called her the Marker. She was tall and strikingly beautiful, with an aura of confidence that seemed to create a force field around her. When she walked, people moved. When she spoke, even teachers sometimes listened with a wary respect. Her tongue was famously sharp, capable of delivering a cutting remark with a sweet smile, and her eyes missed nothing. Adanna first saw her up close on a Friday. She was sitting with Ebeli, discussing their biology assignment, when a shadow fell over their table. "Freshie." The voice was calm, commanding. Adanna looked up to see Amaka standing there, flanked by 2 other senior girls, Kemi and Taupe. They were all looking at her. Me? Adanna asked, her voice coming out as a squeak. Amaka's lips curved into a smile, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. It was a smile of assessment. Yes, you're the new one in Faith Hall. Adanna, right? Adanna was stunned that she knew her name. She nodded mutely. Amaka gestured with a perfectly manicured hand. Come here for a second. Adanna hesitated, her instincts sending a faint alarm. She glanced at Ebeli, whose face had gone pale. Ebeli gave an almost imperceptible shake of her head, her lips mouthing the words, "Be careful." But the pull of Amaka's attention was magnetic. To be noticed by her felt like an anointing. Flushing with a mixture of fear and flattery, Adanna slowly rose from her seat and followed Amaka to a more secluded corner of the hall. You have potential, Freshie, Amaka said, her voice as smooth and rich as honey. She looked Adanna up and down, not unkindly but like a sculptor assessing a block of marble. I've seen you. You carry yourself well. You're not giggly like the others. Adanna didn't know what to say. Thank you, she ventured. Amaka's smile widened. Stick with us, she said, gesturing to Kemi and Tope, who nodded in unison, their expressions unreadable. Stick with us and you'll not just survive this place. You'll own it. You'll learn how things really work. The offer was intoxicating. It felt like a key was being offered to a secret, more powerful world within the school. I'd like that, Adanna heard herself say. Good, Amaka said, her tone final. We have a little get-together sometimes. After lights out, we call them midnight chats. I'll let you know when the next one is. Don't be late. And with that, she turned and walked away, her group falling into step behind her. Adanna stood there for a moment, her heart thumping, before returning to her table. Ebeli was staring at her, her food forgotten. What did she want? Ebeli asked, her voice low and urgent. Nothing, Adanna said, trying to sound nonchalant. She was just welcoming me. Ebeli's eyes were full of concern. Adanna, I told you to be careful. Amaka's group, they're not like us. They play by different rules. Getting involved with them, it changes people. Don't be so dramatic, Ebeli, Adanna said, a defensive edge to her voice. The intoxicating feeling of being chosen was already creating a small rift. She was just being nice. Maybe you just don't understand. Ebeli looked like she wanted to say more, but she just sighed and shook her head. Just be careful. The first midnight chat was held 2 nights later. A soft tap on their dorm room door woke Adanna from a light sleep. When she opened it, Kemi was standing there. Chat time, common room now. It was not an invitation, it was a summons. With a nervous glance at Ebeli's sleeping form, Adanna pulled on her cardigan and followed Kemi down the dark, silent corridor. The common room, usually bright and filled with daylight, was transformed. The lights were off, and the only illumination came from a few smuggled battery-operated lanterns, casting long, dancing shadows on the walls. Amaka and about 6 other girls were sitting in a loose circle on the floor, sharing a bag of crisps and a bottle of soda. Freshie, you made it, Amaka said, her voice a low purr in the semi-darkness. Come sit. She patted the empty space next to her. Adanna sat, folding her legs beneath her. The air was thick with a sense of conspiracy and excitement. They talked in hushed tones about teachers, about other students, sharing gossip that felt both thrilling and dangerous. They laughed at jokes that were laced with a meanness Adanna wasn't comfortable with, but she laughed along anyway, not wanting to break the spell. Here, Amaka said later, handing her the bottle of soda, a rite of passage. Adanna took it. The liquid inside was dark, but it didn't smell like cola. She took a cautious sip. It was bitter with an underlying chemical taste that made her want to gag. It was definitely spiked with something. It's just a little fun, Tope said, watching her reaction. To help you relax. Adanna's mind screamed a warning. Her father's voice echoed, remember who you are. But Amaka was looking at her, her eyebrows raised in expectation. The other girls were watching. To refuse would be to reject them, to label herself as the uptight, goody-goody girl they might mock. The fear of exclusion was more potent than the fear of the strange drink. She forced herself to take another, larger swallow, suppressing a shudder. Amaka smiled, a genuine-looking smile this time. "See, you're one of us now." The words were meant to be welcoming, but they sent a chill down Adanna's spine. As the conversation drifted into more intimate territories, crushes, family problems, secrets they'd never tell their parents, Adanna felt a door closing behind her. She was inside now, part of the secret circle. But the room felt smaller, the shadows darker. She had gotten what she thought she wanted, a place with the powerful, the glamorous. But as she slipped back into her room hours later, the taste of the bitter soda still in her mouth, she felt a hollowness she hadn't expected. The excitement had been real, but it was now tainted with something new, something she couldn't name. The first, faint prickle of dread. The taste of the spiked soda lingered in Adanna's mouth long after she had brushed her teeth, a bitter phantom on her tongue that no amount of mint could erase. It was a tangible reminder of the line she had crossed. Lying in the dark, listening to Ebeli's steady, trusting breathing from the other side of the room, a hot shame washed over her. She felt like she had betrayed something, not just her parents' trust, but a part of herself. The excitement that had carried her to Queen's College now felt like a foolish, naive emotion. It had been replaced by a low, thrumming anxiety, a constant awareness that she was now part of a secret that demanded loyalty. The following days were a study in duality. By day, she was still Adanna Nwasu, the bright new student, attentive in class, taking meticulous notes in her neat, looping handwriting. She attended chapel services and sang the hymns with feigned devotion. She ate meals with Ebeli, though their conversations now had a strained, polite quality. Ebeli had asked no more questions about Amaka, but a silent understanding hung between them. A door had been closed. By night, however, a different Adanna was emerging, one summoned by a tap on the door after lights out. The midnight chats became a regular occurrence. Each one felt like a step deeper into a labyrinth from which she couldn't find the exit. The conversations grew more intimate, more daring. They shared stories of their first periods, of petty thefts from market stalls, of deep-seated resentments towards their parents. Amaka presided over it all like a high priestess, her approval the ultimate reward. "You see," Amaka said one night, her voice a conspiratorial whisper in the lantern-lit gloom, "parents, they build these little cages for us. Be good, Adanna, study hard, Adanna, make us proud. They don't see us, they see a reflection of their own ambitions." She looked around the circle, her gaze landing on each girl, demanding agreement. "They think they know the world, but they are old. Their world is gone. We are smarter than them. We have to make our own rules here." Adanna found herself nodding, a part of her rebellious heart latching onto these words. They gave a name to the quiet pressure she had always felt from her parents, the weight of their hopes. In this shadowy circle, that weight felt lighter, replaced by the exhilarating, dangerous feeling of being part of an elite who saw the truth. It was during one of these sessions that the dynamic shifted irreversibly. The air in the common room was particularly charged. The girls were giddy, whispering about a male teacher they collectively found attractive. Then, Kemi, her eyes glinting in the low light, turned to Adanna. "Adanna, be honest, have you ever even kissed anyone, a boy, a man?" The room fell silent. All eyes turned to her. Adanna's cheeks burned as if scalded. She felt exposed, her innocence suddenly feeling like a glaring flaw. "No," she whispered, the words sounding childishly small in the tense quiet. Amaka didn't smirk this time. Instead, she looked at Adanna with a strange, almost predatory pity. "You're so untouched. It's not a bad thing," she said, her voice deceptively soft. "It just means you have so much to learn. And we," she gestured to the group, "are here to teach you. The world isn't in your books, Adanna. It's in here." She tapped her own lips. A nervous laugh escaped Tope. "Yeah, it's no big deal. We've all practiced." Adanna's stomach twisted into a cold, hard knot. She knew where this was heading. Her instincts screamed at her to get up, to run back to her room, to lock the door and never come out. But her body felt frozen, trapped by the weight of their collective gaze. To leave now would be the ultimate betrayal of the group. It would brand her a coward, a child unworthy of their secret society. Relax, Amaka cooed, shifting closer on the floor. The scent of her perfume, something floral and expensive, filled Adanna's senses. You trust us, don't you? The question was a weapon. To say no was unthinkable. Adanna managed a jerky nod, her throat constricted. It's just a little kiss, Amaka continued, her voice hypnotic. Just to see what it's like. So you're not completely lost when a real boy tries it. You don't want to be the one who doesn't know what to do you? The awkward one. The other girls murmured their encouragement, their voices blending into a single, persuasive force that eroded Adanna's will. It was presented as a favor, a necessary lesson, an act of sisterhood. Come on, Adanna, it's just for fun. Before she could form a word of protest, Amaka leaned in. Adanna's world narrowed to the sight of Amaka's face approaching, the feel of her hand on her shoulder, the mix of fear and a terrible, shameful curiosity that paralyzed her. When their lips met, the contact was brief, dry, and utterly alien. It felt nothing like the romantic first kisses she had read about in novels. It felt like a violation, a transaction. Her entire being recoiled. When Amaka pulled back, she was smiling, a look of satisfaction in her eyes. See, that wasn't so bad, was it? You're officially initiated. The circle of girls erupted in soft, approving giggles and claps. Adanna forced a laugh, a hollow, brittle sound that scratched her throat. She felt a piece of her soul splinter off and shatter. She had passed their test, but she had failed herself. The knot in her chest tightened into a permanent fixture. Back in her bed that night, the single tear was followed by a silent, shuddering storm of them, muffled by her pillow. The vibrant, ambitious girl who had arrived at Queen's College felt like a ghost. In her place was a puppet, her strings pulled by Amaka. Amaka's influence deepened after that night. She began to critique Adanna's choices. Her hairstyle was too juvenile, her preferred novels were boring, her friendship with Ebeli was holding her back. That Ebeli is so simple, Amaka remarked as they walked to class one morning. She has no vision. She'll graduate, marry some boring man from her village and pop out bobbies. Is that what you want, to be simple? No, Adanna whispered, the denial feeling like a betrayal of the first real friend she had made here. Then stop clinging to her. You're one of us now, act like it. The change in Adanna became noticeable to everyone. Her once bright eyes now carried a perpetual shadow. Her laughter, when it came, was sharp and brittle, lacking its former warmth. She started spending less time in their room, inventing excuses to avoid studying with Ebeli. Adanna, what's going on with you? Ebeli finally confronted her one evening, her voice trembling with hurt and frustration. You don't even study with me anymore. You're always whispering with Amaka and those girls. You're changing. I don't even know you anymore. Adanna scoffed, channeling Amaka's dismissiveness. You just wouldn't understand, Ebeli. You're happy in your little bubble. Some of us want more. Ebeli's eyes glistened with unshed tears. Be careful, she pleaded, her voice dropping to a whisper. Not everyone who smiles at you is your friend. Some people, they just like to collect souls. Her words were a final, desperate warning that hung in the air between them before Ebeli turned and left the room. The words lingered, echoing the ones her own father had given her. But Adanna, deep in Amaka's thrall, brushed them aside, convinced that Ebeli was simply jealous. The midterm break arrived like an unwelcome interruption. The journey home was silent. Adanna stared out the window, the once inspiring landscape now just a blur. The familiar sight of her home, the scent of her mother's cooking, the comfortable clutter of the living room, it all felt strangely distant, like an exhibit in a museum of her former life. Her mother, Ngozi, noticed the change immediately. The daughter who had left was a chatterbox, filling the house with stories and dreams. The daughter who returned was a sullen, withdrawn stranger. How's school, NWAM? Ngozi asked one evening, trying to draw her out as they prepared dinner. It's fine, Adanna replied. her gaze fixed on the onion she was mechanically chopping. "Just fine. You used to write pages about it in your letters. Tell me about your friends. About this Ebeli you mentioned." "She's fine. Everything is fine, Mama," Adanna snapped, the lie tasting as bitter as that first sip of soda. Ngozi fell silent, but her worry was a palpable force in the room. That night she confided in her husband. "Chakwudi, something is wrong with Adanna. I can feel it in my bones. She's not the same girl, her light. It's gone." Chakwudi sighed, putting down his newspaper. "She's a teenager, Ngozi. They go through phases. Boarding school is a big adjustment. She's finding her place." "But this is more than a phase," Ngozi insisted, her voice tight with fear. "I feel like I'm losing my daughter. I look into her eyes and it's like she's hiding a deep, dark secret." Determined to uncover the truth, Ngozi took action. The day after Adanna returned to school, she requested a private meeting with the school counselor, Mrs. Adebio. Sitting in the tidy, impersonal office, Ngozi poured out her fears. "I feel like I'm losing my daughter," she confessed, her voice breaking. "She's withdrawn, she lies, her personality has completely changed." Mrs. Adebio's face grew solemn. "Mrs. Nwasu," she said gently, "you are not the first parent to come to me with these concerns this term. There is a group, some senior students who have been exerting a significant influence over some of the younger, more impressionable girls. The influence is concerning." Hearing her suspicions confirmed by a professional sent a jolt of pure terror through Ngozi's heart. It was one thing to fear the unknown, it was another to have it named. "Please," she pleaded, leaning forward, her hands clasped tightly together. "Please, help me save my daughter." That evening, instead of returning to the dormitory after prep, Adanna found her mother waiting for her in the nearly empty school cafeteria. Her heart plummeted. "Adanna," Ngozi began, her voice calm but firm, belying the storm of worry in her eyes. "Sit down." Adanna obeyed, her body tense. "I know something is wrong. You are not yourself anymore. You're a stranger in your own skin." Ngozi reached across the table, but Adanna flinched, pulling her hands away. The rejection stung Ngozi deeply, but she pressed on. "You can tell me anything, Adanna, anything at all. Did someone hurt you?" The direct question hung in the air. Adanna looked away, guilt and fear waging a brutal war within her. She saw the genuine love and concern in her mother's eyes, and for a fleeting second the wall around her heart cracked. She wanted to tell her everything, about the midnight chats, the spiked soda, the crushing pressure, the kiss that haunted her, but the words wouldn't come. The fear of Amaka's wrath, the shame of her own compliance was too great. "I'm fine, Mama," she repeated, her voice a hollow monotone. "Everything is fine." The words were the final brick in the wall between them. Ngozi left the school with a heaviness in her soul that she had never known before. She had tried, and she had failed. The battle for her daughter's soul was being lost within these very walls. Later that night, alone in her dorm room, Ebeli was at the library. The weight of her mother's visit crashed down on Adanna. The facade she had so carefully maintained finally crumbled. She curled up on her bed, sobbing into her pillow, the sounds raw and guttural. She felt trapped in a nightmare of her own making. It was there that Ebeli found her. She didn't say a word. She simply sat on the edge of the bed and placed a comforting hand on Adanna's shaking back. That simple, silent act of kindness was the chink in the armor that Adanna needed. "I feel trapped, Ebeli," Adanna finally admitted, her voice thick with tears, the confession torn from her. "Amaka and the others. They're not what I thought they were. It's like I'm drowning and I don't know how to swim back to the surface." Ebeli squeezed her shoulder. "You don't have to stay with them," she said, her voice firm and sure. "You are stronger than they are. We can figure this out together." For the first time in months, Adanna felt a flicker of genuine hope. It was small and fragile, but it was real. The journey back to herself was going to be long and painful, but she was no longer alone. The first battle in the war for Adanna's soul had just begun. To be continued in the final part. Will Adanna find the courage to break free from Amaka's grip? Can her parents intervene in time? The final part of this gripping tale reveals the climax and the powerful lessons learned. Subscribe to African Folktales and turn on notifications so you don't miss the shocking conclusion. The story reaches its peak in the next video.